You are about to watch a shared reading lesson using a big book in a kindergarten classroom over the course of 2 to 3 days. Okay. So today we're going to read a story called Lazy, Lonely, Rolly. How many of you have ever been lonely? You ever been lonely? Yeah, me too. Talk to your partner. When was the time that you felt lonely?
All my friends were pregnant.
Bring it back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Check your thinking with my thinking, because I heard some of you saying something similar to what I was thinking. I get lonely when my friends aren't available to play with me and I have to play by myself. How many of you thought that? Yeah, that's sometimes how I feel lonely. Or sometimes I'm lonely when my best friend doesn't come to school because they're sick. How many of you ever had that happen? Yeah, so you know what it feels like to feel lonely, don't you? How do you feel when you're lonely? How do you feel when you're lonely? Quickly tell your partner, how do you feel? I heard it. You feel sad. That's right. So let's see if Lazy, Lonely, Rolly is feeling that same way when we read this story, because this is a story about Lazy, Lonely, Rolly, and he's a rhino who is very sad because he is lonely. You got it. But before I read this story, I need to think about some things. I want to talk to you about our listening target. This is something I want you to be listening for as I'm doing this lesson today, is how does making predictions about a story help me to understand the story? And a prediction is something that is a guess based on the story. It kind of gives me an idea of what I'm going to be reading about. So I'm going to make some predictions on this about Lazy, Lonely, Rolly just by looking at the cover. Just by looking at it. And the first thing I want to be thinking about is I want to be thinking about where this story might be happening. So what is the setting? We call that the setting, where that story might be happening. And I'm looking at this cover, and I see a tree, so it must be outside. And it looks like maybe some hay, or maybe some sand, I'm not sure, but maybe it looks more like hay. And I'm thinking that Rolly could be like on a desert, maybe. Or I know that rhinos live in Africa. Have you heard that too?
Yeah.
And I've also thought, well, maybe he's at the zoo. Oh, maybe he lives at a zoo. I'm going to put that down as my prediction, that I predict that Rolly lives in a zoo. So I'm going to put the setting down as the zoo. So there's my setting, so I've got that. So now I'm wondering what else I know. The other thing I need to think about are the characters in my story. Who is in my story? Quickly, tell your partner who you think is in the story. I heard you all say Rolly, and it's got to be because he's right on my cover. There might be more characters, but I don't know who they are because they're not on the cover. So I'm going to put Rolly. There's my Rolly. So now I have my setting and my characters. And there might be more characters. We can add to them later, or we can change the setting if we need to. All right, so now I need to figure out, well, what could be his problem? And I'm thinking this. Lazy, Lonely, Rolly. I'm wondering if the problem is that Rolly is lonely because it says it right in the title. So I'm thinking that's probably what his problem is. So I'm going to put that down as my problem. Rolly is sad and lonely. All right, so I know a lot so far about my story, don't I? Wow, and I haven't even started to read it yet. I'm excited to find out if my predictions are going to come true. So I don't really know. I know the setting, the characters, and the problem. And I know there's always going to be an ending to my story, which is going to be the solution. But I don't know what that is yet because I haven't read the story. So maybe we better read it and find out. What do you think? I think we're ready to read. Okay. Lazy, Lonely, Rolly. Here we go. Lazy, Lonely, Rolly. Well, here he is. And hasn't really started, but this book is by Janine Willis. Let's see. Rolly was a rhino. He lived in a zoo. I was right. My prediction about where the story took place was in a zoo. I was right. Oh, so glad. I made a good prediction. He was the only rhino. He had nothing to do. I think I just heard my problem. I thought the problem was that Rolly was sad and lonely. Was my prediction right? Give me a thumbs up if I was right. I was right. Wow, I'm doing really good with my predictions so far. I'm really glad I made those predictions because they're making me really read to find out my answers. I'm going to keep going. Get into the crate, the rhino keeper said. But the lazy, lonely rhino just stayed in his bed. Oh, boy, he looks really sad there. He doesn't want to move. The rhino keeper went to fetch a giant rope. Oh. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short slope. It's a good question. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The bird keeper came, and the bear keeper too. They said, pull and we'll push. That's what we will do. Oh, I wonder if that's going to work. Let's see. The distance was short. The speed was slow. But into the crate, Rolly would not go. Oh, I wonder how they're going to get him into that crate. The giraffe keeper came. He told Rolly the plan. Then into the crate, that lazy rhino ran. Uh-oh. I'm going to stop here for a moment. I'm wondering where they're taking Rolly. I wonder where they're taking him. I better stop and make a prediction. Well, where would they take a rhino from the zoo? I'm wondering if they might take him back to Africa. Remember, because he's sad. Maybe he misses Africa. I don't know. I'm thinking that that's my solution, is that they're going to take him back to Africa. I'm going to write that down. Take Rolly back to Africa. Talk to your partner. Where do you think they're going to take Rolly? Let's read to find out if my prediction is right. Here we go. The rhino keeper took Rolly to an even bigger zoo. There were games to play and lots of things to do. He was not the only rhino. He was now one of 4. So Rolly was not lazy or lonely anymore. So what'd you think? What'd you think?
Good.
Had a good ending, didn't it? I know, it was a good ending. So let's go back and check here. How were my predictions? Did I predict the setting was the zoo? Was I right? Thumbs up if I was right. All right. Was the problem that Rolly is sad and lonely? Was that a good prediction? I was right on that too. How about the characters? Was Rolly my only character?
Yes.
Rolly was one of my characters, but there were some more characters, weren't there? There was the giraffe keeper, the bird keeper, the bear keeper. So there's all these other keepers, right? I'm going to put zookeepers because there were a couple of them, weren't there? Excuse me? Yeah, there was the rhino keeper too, wasn't there? Yep, I'm just going to call them zookeepers because there were lots of different ones, weren't there? Okay, and let me check my solution. The problem was that Rolly was sad and lonely, so I predicted that they were going to take Rolly back to Africa. Was I right?
No.
I wasn't right, but was it a good prediction?
Yes.
Could they really have done that? Yeah, and I got that prediction because I was thinking about what would make sense with the story. So now I have to think, what was the solution? What did they do with Rolly? They took him to a bigger zoo, didn't they, that had other rhinos? Yes. So I need to change my prediction of the solution, that they took Rolly back to Africa, or back to a different zoo with more rhinos so that he would be happy. All right. It's a brand new day. And this time our listening target is, how does thinking about the story help me understand and read words that I don't know? And there were a couple of words in there that I heard you say, what is that word? Right? All right. So today we're going to talk about that. Okay. Lazy, lonely Rolly. Here we go. Rolly was a rhino. He lived in a zoo. He was the only rhino. He had nothing to do. Get into the crate, the rhino keeper said. But the lazy, lonely rhino just stayed in his bed. They're good readers. The rhino keeper went to fetch a giant rope. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short slope. The bird keeper came, and the bear keeper too. They said, pull and we'll push. That's what we'll do. The distance was short, the speed was slow, but into the crate Rolly would not go. The giraffe keeper came. He told Rolly the plan. Then into the crate that lazy rhino ran. The rhino keeper took Rolly to an even bigger zoo. There were games to play and lots of things to do. He was not the only rhino. He was now one of 4. So Rolly was not lazy or lonely anymore. You got it. All right. So now that we've read that story 2 times, it's a little bit easier to understand it, isn't it? All right. So let me just do something here really quickly. I want to show you something. But I have to cover some things up first because you guys are so smart. I want to try to trick you a little bit. Think I can?
No.
You don't think? I don't think I can either. You're so smart. I tell you, these kindergartners are getting smarter and smarter by the day. All right, so let's take a look. I've covered up some words in here because I want to show you something. Because our listening target was, how does thinking about the story help me read? So let's take a look at a page that I'm not sure about. Can you? Well, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't look. Okay? Pretend that you can't see through it. So smart. I should have used 2 sticky notes. All right. Here we go. Can you see through it now? No. Oh, I should have done that to the other one. All right, I'll do that one too. There we go. Okay, here we go. This story says, boy, when I'm stuck on a word, here is what I do. You watch me. The rhino keeper went to blank a giant rope. I got to think, what would make sense with the story? I'm going to reread it. The rhino keeper went to blank a giant rope. Well, if he didn't have one, he'd have to go and get it, wouldn't he? So I wonder if it could be get. Let's see if that would work. The rhino keeper went to get a giant rope. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, let me try it one more time. The rhino keeper went to get a giant rope. Ooh, that does make sense. So now I have to check it with the word to see if I'm right. So let's see. I'm just going to show the first letter. Ooh. Because I know I have to get my mouth ready for that first sound when I read. The rhino keeper went to get. G, g. Oh, I hear a g like gift. It can't be get, can it? It doesn't match. This word starts with a f. Oh, I heard it. Sound. The rhino keeper went to A giant rope. What would make sense? Fetch. So fetch must mean to go and get. Means the same thing, doesn't it? But fetch is a much funner word, isn't it? Yeah, we don't get to use that word very often, but I kind of like that word. Okay, let's see if we can do this one. You guys are so smart. Here we go. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short blank. Oh, what's he pulling him up? Let's see. He's trying to go up this thing. Talk to your partners. What could that word be? What could it be? What could it be? Let's see. Put your hands down for just a second. I love how you're all just thinking and thinking and thinking. Let's see. He tried to pull Rolly up the short blank. Well, it looks like he's going up this board. Maybe the word is board. Looks like a board, doesn't it? It's made out of wood. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short board. Kind of works, right? You don't like that one?
No.
Oh. Okay, what else could it mean? Let's see. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short, kind of looks like a ramp. You know, like a ramp that you go up? No? It couldn't be a ramp?
No.
Oh, so it couldn't be a ramp? Oh, okay. Do you have a different idea? You think it's crate? Okay, let's see. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short crate. No, that doesn't work either, does it? But that was a good guess. That was a good prediction. We think we need more information. Let's check the first letter. I thought it was ramp. Could it be ramp?
No.
No, because what sound would I expect to see if it was ramp? What sound would I hear? Oren, the letter R. I'd see the letter R, and I don't see the letter R there, so it can't be ramp. What about board? I said it was board. Could it be board?
No.
What letter would you expect to see if it was board?
B.
You guys are so smart. There's an S. I got to figure out what it is.
I know what
Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short
slope.
You think it's slope?
Yeah.
Let's see. Slope. Yes, it matched. Thumbs up, you guys. Way to go. Nice job on figuring out those tricky words. So a slope, someone asked me earlier, what's a slope? Now we know what a slope is, don't we? Because we checked the picture and we made sure it matched the word. A slope is like a ramp or a board that you go up, isn't it? Something to help you go up at an incline. You got it.
Instead of just climbing up it.
Right.
Too high.
Exactly.
That's what they're
Right.
They have 4 legs and try to get up and they have 4 legs.
It would be hard for them to climb up. Yeah, it might be really hard for them to get up otherwise, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's think about this story for just a second, because this was a really good story, and I know that you all really enjoyed it. So we're just going to switch gears a little bit, and let's just think about this book for just a second. Why do you think the rhino keeper decided to move Rolly to a different zoo? Quickly talk to your partner. Why do you think they decided to move him to a different zoo? Pyramid up with your partner when I know you're ready. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands down, please. Ladies, can you please tell me what you talked about? Why do you think the rhino keeper decided to move Rolly to a different zoo? How many of you agree? Thumbs up if you agree. If you had a different answer, raise your hand and let me know. What were you and your partner talking about?
Because he was the only one.
He was the only rhino? Okay. How many of you were thinking that same thing? All right. Let's think of another question. Here's another question for you. What if they couldn't get Rolly to move and he had to stay at his zoo? What do you think the rhino keeper could do to make Rolly feel better? What could he do? Talk to your partners.
Maybe
Pyramid up when you're ready. Yep, pyramid up. I love how you're thinking. Yep. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if Rolly wasn't able to go to a new zoo, what could the rhino keeper do to make him feel not so lonely? How to make him feel better? Yes. I don't know your name.
Bring another rhino to that zoo.
Oh, why do you think that would work?
Because take another one that's not so heavy.
Oh.
And then bring that to that zoo.
Oh, okay. For someone to play with. All right. Did someone have a different idea about how the zookeeper could make Rolly feel better besides bringing another rhino to the zoo? What were you guys talking about?
Well, I was talking about to not not to get a vote to bring him to the zoo. I would just tell him we're just going to the zoo with there's some people there to play with.
Oh. Do you think that would work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, because it kind of worked in the story, didn't it? Remember when was it the bird keeper or the giraffe keeper? I can't remember who it was. It was one of the keepers.
It was a giraffe keeper.
Oh, yeah, the giraffe keeper. Remember he told Rolly the plan? He told Rolly where he was going, and that's why he finally moved. So that might work too, wouldn't it? Someone have a different idea about how the zookeeper can make him feel better? Got a different idea?
Maybe they can move into like a different zoo. They did that.
Didn't they do that though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that was a good idea just to move him to a different zoo? Okay, that worked. I was thinking maybe they could bring him some toys.
Yeah.
Would that make him feel better?
Yeah.
I don't know what rhinos like to play with, but maybe like some balls, or how about a DS game? Think a rhino would like a DS game? I don't think a rhino could play a DS game, do you? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good discussion, everybody. Good discussion. All right. So let's go back and think about how we had some tricky words that we had to try to figure out, didn't we? We had to figure out what they meant, and we also had to use the picture to help us figure out what they meant, didn't we? And then we had to check them with the beginning letter to see if we were right. Right? And that's how we figured how thinking about the story helped me read those hard words. All right. So today we're going to talk about how we find the beginning and middle and the end of our story. And that's going to help us retell the story. So that's kind of our listening target today. And we've read this story a few times already, so we're not going to reread it again. If we had time, we would, but we don't right now. So, we doing okay? Girls, are we doing okay? Sit flat on your bottoms. Crisscross applesauce. Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I have to do first of all is I have to read a little bit of the story to try to figure out where the beginning of the story is. I'll wait. You ready? All right, so I know the beginning of the story is very important because it has to do with my characters and my setting. The middle of my story is where the problem is going to happen. And the end of my story is where the solution or where the problem gets fixed. That's the solution. So I'm going to try to figure out where this happens, and I'm going to mark it with my Post-it note. So here we go. Lazy, lonely Rolly. Rolly was a rhino. He lived in a zoo. Oh, right away I heard my beginning. I heard the setting, right? And I also heard the character. Did you hear it? So there's my setting and my character. So right away I have the first page is my beginning. Now I'm going to be looking for the middle, so I have to look for the problem. You give me a thumbs up if you hear the problem. Are you ready? He was the only rhino. He had nothing to do. Ooh, you heard it already? So this is the middle of my story right here. But it's only the second page. But that's where the problem is, so that's my middle. So my problem's going to go right there. Rolly is sad and lonely. Oh, thank you, honey. All right, so now we got to find the solution. What's the solution mean? It means how the problem gets fixed. So the problem is Rolly is lonely, sad and lonely. Does it happen here? Thumbs up if you hear it. Are you ready? Get into the crate, the rhino keeper said, but the lazy, lonely rhino just stayed in his bed.
No.
I don't see any thumbs up. That's not the solution yet? Let's go to the next one. The rhino keeper went to fetch a giant rope. Then he tried to pull Rolly up the short slope. Is that the solution to the problem? The problem is that Rolly is lonely and sad. Have they fixed it yet?
No.
Not yet. Keep going. Boy, there's a lot of pages to this, isn't there? The bird keeper came and the bear keeper too. They said, pull and we'll push. That's what we'll do. Is he still lonely? Is he still sad? So the problem hasn't been fixed yet. We got to keep going. Oh my gosh, they just keep falling down, don't they? Thank you. The distance was short. The speed was slow. But into the crate Rolly would not go. Still nothing. All right, let's keep going. The giraffe keeper came. He told Rolly the plan. Then into the crate that lazy rhino ran. Is it fixed yet?
No.
Not yet. Let's keep going. The rhino keeper took Rolly to an even bigger zoo. There were games to play and lots of things to do. He was not the only rhino. He was now one of 4. Did we hear the solution? I hear thumbs up. Is the problem fixed?
Yes.
Is he sad anymore?
No.
Should we read one more page to make sure we're on the right spot? All right, let's do it. So Rolly was not lazy or lonely anymore. Where do you think we should put it? We should put it here or we should put it here? Where does he not lonely anymore? How many of you think I should put it here? Raise your hand. How many of you think I should put it here? I think I should put it here too. So wow, it took all of this. How many pages is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It took 7 pages to solve that problem. I know, isn't that crazy? Wow, and right away at the beginning was our characters and our setting. Wow. That's very interesting, isn't it? You would think that the problem would be in the middle of the book, wouldn't you? But it wasn't. It was on the second page of our story. All right. If we had time, we would also take it to the storyboard and actually illustrate it, but we don't have time to do that. Boys and girls, you did such a nice job.
You have just watched one example of a fictional shared reading lesson using a big book. Hopefully you noticed the teacher's listening targets, think aloud, predicting, reading aloud while pointing to the words, identification of context clues and plot, as well as the partner sharing.